Okay, fantastic. We've got a few people just asking if we started early. We were just chatting, obviously, as a warm-up off camera, and we just decided to go live a couple of minutes earlier on. It's now officially 8 o'clock. We're here. So welcome to episode 4 of Max REVS Sunday Lockdown. Oh yeah, normally I'm supposed to have you off camera. Actually, just hide for a minute. One minute. There we go. So yeah, welcome to episode 4 of the Sunday Lockdown specials. Today we have Nate and his 987 base Cayman. We've been chatting off screen already, so let me just bring Nate in right along. Nate, how you go? How you doing, man?
How are you, Max? It is my pleasure and honor to be here today, especially on a day where you honor Pinky Lie, the developer.
Oh yes. Yeah, I mean, I've recently found out about that guy because obviously being obsessed with Caymans, I just wanted to do a bit more research into the car. Found out that this guy designed the Cayman, and believe it or not, I reached out to this guy and I'm thinking there's no way he's going to kind of respond to my email. He did respond. He's left Porsche now, so he doesn't work there anymore, and I'm just hoping to get the insight I can get through him, because we owe a lot to this one guy. It's amazing. You think of Porsche as a massive company with thousands of people. One guy's designs gave us this Cayman. Well, that's the 987 anyway.
And the 996 as well. I
Yes.
saw an interview of him on another channel, and he is a phenomenal, interesting human being, man. I am very, very much looking forward to that on your channel. Can't wait for it, Max. Can't wait.
Yeah. Listen, we'll try not to get into the questions straight away, because whether you know it or not, we're winging it this time. I've been doing quite a lot of preparation, and basically my wife's been saying, you're stuck in that room all the time, okay? So today we're going with a minimal prep and just see how it all goes, okay? So there was a question where someone was talking about differences with the GT86 and the Cayman that you now own, but let's not go there. Let's kind of rewind a little bit, okay? And let's basically say I've got a picture of your car. So this is a video of Nate's 987 Gen 2 base, lovely colour in white. We've got a video on his car on the channel already. If you haven't seen that, well, maybe check that out later on. And if you haven't seen that video, why not? Because you should be keeping up to date with the content on this channel. Exactly. Especially when it's a 987. I had a few people complain there was too much of the 981 GT4s and the 718s. We've had a string of 987s come out of the woodwork, okay? They're everywhere, so I'm really glad about that.
Boy, have they, man. There have been some very, very nice cars, too. Very, very nice. Yeah. You know, considering they sold so few of these and the bottom fell out of the economy pretty much when this car was released or shortly thereafter.
Yeah. So can you tell me, you were giving me the numbers of your model in the entire of North America.
Yeah, about 600. That's why I'm shocked that you actually have a bigger following in North America than you do overseas. It's amazing to me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So we were just talking. Yeah, we were talking off camera earlier on. I have more subscribers based in the United States than the UK, which obviously that kind of surprised Nate, given the volumes of the cars we're talking about.
Right.
Yeah. There we go. So let's kind of roll on to your Cayman. I don't know what order we're going to do this in, but let's start with the Cayman, because obviously this is a kind of a Cayman channel. So you had your previous car to the Cayman. You can come on to that in a moment. And you were thinking, you know what? I've never owned a Porsche. I want to get into a Porsche. You narrowed out the 987 Gen 2, the white one, the base one. What made you choose the Cayman? How did you find it? Did you find difficulty finding it? Just tell us about that whole experience.
Well, as I said, I came from the land of BMW. I have always had Porsches in the back of my mind. I've always thought it was a natural progression, BMW to Porsche. I had always thought that. And actually, Max, I was looking at a 996, or at least a very, very beat 997. It would have to be beat to be in my price range. Yeah. Talking 100,000 miles or so. And the prices were still a little bit outrageous, and I didn't really want to take a chance on a 996, not knowing what kind of condition a 996 was going to be in. And, dealing with the IMS stuff, and which I think is way overblown, by the way. I just didn't want to take a chance. So I aspired. Nothing really came to fruition until, one day I'm searching the web, and I see a car on eBay that is, horrendously photographed, dirty. If you're interested in selling a car, this was the exact wrong way to sell a vehicle. But it was a manual. Okay. It was a manual. I couldn't believe it. And, now to this day, I believe the only reason this car was sitting on this lot with only 35,000 miles, this was 2015, was that the car was photographed so poorly. And so I said, you know what? It was about 50 miles from my house. I said, you know what? It's not going to cost me anything but gas to go check it out. So I go to check it out, and I had a checklist that I pulled offline, what to look for. I'm not a mechanic by any stretch of the imagination, but I've been around cars. My dad was a mechanic, but I've been around cars pretty much my whole life. So went up there with my checklist that I believe I pulled off Renlist. Went up there, and the car passed, I mean, everything with flying colors. Test drove the car. Still couldn't believe this car was sitting there on this lot, and it had been sitting there for quite a long time.
So just so I'm clear, it was an eBay listing. Was it like a trade seller, or was it a private seller?
It was a consignment lot, of all things.
Wow.
Yeah, which was even more fortuitous for me. So I'm very interested in the car. I go to make a deal on the car. I lowballed these folks beyond belief, thinking no way they're going to accept this offer. And I was right. Okay. They didn't accept the offer. But I went up $500 more, and they took the offer.
Wow. Is this all through the eBay bidding system, or did you sort of do like make it now offers and stuff?
No. What happened was, once I saw the car on eBay and I saw that the car was closed, I just drove to the facility.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's how the transaction went. Like I said, I went up on my offer $500, and not thinking in a million years they would accept that offer either, and they accepted.
Wow.
The guy just wanted. He was not used to dealing with this type of car, and I don't believe the guy knew what he had, and I think he just wanted the car off his lot.
Wow, good for you. Listen, to those of you that are putting questions out, we're going to do a bit of a chit chat for now, and then I'm definitely coming back to the questions. So keep putting your questions down there, and we'll definitely get through them as we kind of go. But I want to try and keep the dialogue flowing, and I don't want to keep doing questions every now and again, because that's just going to sort of break up the flow. But I will come back to the questions. So just had a few comments about how basically it looks good in white, and basically good for you for getting the Gen 2 and not the Gen 1.
Yeah, you know what? As I've said, I think the IMS thing is way overblown. Yeah. I would have taken a Gen 1 987.1, but there were a lot of high mileage cars, and that coupled with the potential of the IMS, it just wasn't attractive. And then when this 987.2, ideally I probably would have wanted an S, but when a .2 base just basically fell into my lap for my price. Yeah. For a price, again, I didn't think in a million years anybody would accept. It was a no-brainer. There was no possible way I could walk away from it, Max. It was just a deal and steal of the century. I couldn't do it.
Can I check something with you? When you guys in the US kind of say it's a high mileage car, I mean, what's the definition for you guys as high mileage? Because, like we go down the shops, we might walk to the shops, or we might call 3 miles or 4 miles, quite long. Whereas you have to drive like 10 miles just to go get your groceries, yeah?
I personally would not buy any car that has 100,000 miles on it already. Yeah, I mean, unless it's a Honda, something, a Honda or a Toyota, something where you're pretty much guaranteed these days 300,000-400,000 miles with proper maintenance. Our cars are just, even with proper maintenance, I think they're, for lack of better terminology, they're finicky. They're finicky. I won't say they're unreliable, not by any stretch of the imagination. I just think they're finicky, Max. And, to buy a car with already 100,000 miles on it that someone conceivably has broken in already, it's just now, I just don't know how much enjoyment you have left.
Well, I wonder how much of that is kind of like just maybe, just misconceptions. Because I know like there's a lot of people on these Facebook forums that have cars 100,000 miles plus. And they will always swear it's down to the oil change interval. So basically change it every year. They don't do this. I know the recommended service intervals every 2 years. They do it every year. I follow the oil grade that's in the book, but apparently they say as your car gets older, you should use a different grade of oil. So I've always stuck with what the manufacturers say, but I know a lot of independent garages, they'll tell you to put a different grade of oil in to look after that engine.
Well, I use modal 5W40, and that's what my independent mechanic swears by. And
I think that's the one. I mean, don't quote me on this. I think that the book says 0W40, so I think 5W40 is the one that other people can use.
I think it's temperature dependent, and we don't get really really low temperatures where I'm at. So I think the 5W40 is more recommended for my region. And my Indy, who used to be a Porsche tech at a dealership, he swears by the stuff. And I have had zero issues with this car aside from a clutch interlock switch going about 2 years ago.
We've just had someone quickly comment in that they'd like to change their oil every 6 months. So if you want to keep your car and to those really high mileages, they say changing that oil is just really critical.
I don't doubt that at all, Max. But I pretty much go by mileage. I don't go over about 7,500 miles between oil changes. That's about my limit, 7,500. That's as far as
how many miles were on the car when you bought the Cayman, by the way?
It was 35,000. Great question.
Wow.
35,000 miles on it. The car was basically new. It smelled new.
Wow.
It was just dirty as you would not believe. The car was in dire need of a detail. And I have just under 62,000 on it now.
Wow. One thing I loved about the video that you made is you walked around the car and then you said to me, I've bought the car, I've done the essentials. And the things you listed as the essentials, sports exhaust, the clear lights... And I'm thinking, this is the guy. Like, I don't even have a sports exhaust on my car, but I like the fact you consider them essentials.
Yes, these cars are for Porsche to be a sports car manufacturer, Max. These cars are way too quiet from the factory. I don't know what their reasoning is behind that, but I think it was the first mod I put a Fab Speed Super Cup race on the car and gave proper volume, and I don't plan on changing the headers. I think that's too loud. I'm not one of these fast and furious guys. I'm too old for that. I just needed a little bit more volume to remind me what I'm jumping into, what I'm getting into every day, and so I have a little bit more enjoyment out of the car.
I would like to maybe think about headers one day, but I'm not sure how it affects us for emissions regulations, because the Porsche, the flat six, the engine loves to rev. But they do say if you put the sports headers on, you get a little bit more torque at lower revs. So they say that's kind of... I know there's a guy on this channel who's got a GT4, and he's got the Fab Speed sports headers, and he definitely gets a bit more...
I've heard that as well, Max,
okay.
But I just don't want to deal with that check engine light because in our .2s, the catalytic converters or the emissions control devices are in the headers themselves. Okay. And I don't want to keep dealing with that check engine light or go to get it smog checked and it doesn't pass here in the States. So I don't want to be bothered with that. That's why I kept the stock headers on the car. And honestly, with the Super Cup race, that is more than enough volume. I don't need any more volume. Yeah.
I love the fact you've doubled the mileage on the purchase of since you had your Cayman. So how long have you had the Cayman?
Well, that's 5 years, Max.
That's 5 years. Oh wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The car looks it still looks amazing.
I am big on detailing.
Yeah.
I once knew a guy that was pretty much, he could have been a professional detailer, and he taught me how to detail cars. So I take a lot of pride in how my cars look. My cars always look pristine, and so for that to be a 10-year-old car, I think it looks pretty damn good, and I appreciate the compliment.
Wow, okay, so let me just quickly scan through some of the comments, see what we can do. So we can come on to this. What did you have before the Cayman, by the way?
Great question. So I had a Scion FRS, which is now the GT86 and Scion.
Perfect. That ties in really well with this other guy's question. So as you talk about the Scion, as you call it, this guy was basically saying, what made you go for the Cayman from the... So we call that the Toyota. So you call it the Scion.
It was always the Toyota GT86 overseas. It was always that overseas. Scion was a brand here in the States that I guess Toyota decided it didn't have much brand clout. And they just, since Toyota owned the company anyway, they just basically did away with the name and absorbed it as the Toyota.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. But the Toyota GT86 was developed in conjunction. They used the Cayman as a benchmark for that car. And you can tell. It is so sublime to drive. The chassis is unbelievable in that car. But it is so let down by a wheeze bag of an engine. I mean, like I told you while we were chatting before we were getting ready to go on, I've had cyclists pass me on freeway on-ramps. The car is so woefully slow.
Wow.
It's not even it's not even enjoyable. It's so slow, man.
What was the engine? Was there an engine choice, by the way, on the GT86?
No, there's only one engine choice, and that's a 2-liter flat 4
Okay.
that is basically front mid mounted. It is so far into the chassis that you could call it front mid mounted.
Okay.
It needs the WRX motor, which is the turbocharged variant of that motor, and they won't do it because I think they believe they're gonna cannibalize sales of their other products.
Wow.
Yeah,
What were the power figures on the GT86, by the way?
200, I forget at what RPM, 200 horsepower and only 151 pound-feet of torque.
Gotcha.
And I forget what what RPM that's at as well.
Yeah.
But it is anemic. It is anemic. But still, having said that, there would be no Cayman right now if the car had 50 more horsepower. I would have kept the car forever.
Oh, really? Are you serious? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm quite serious because the chassis is so sublime. I mean, talk about a car you can throw around and have fun with. I mean, it is unbelievable. The fact that they chose the Porsche Cayman to test that car against while they were developing it, it shows.
That's amazing. I mean, I've never driven a GT86, but one thing I love about the Cayman, the packaging as a driver, it feels like the car wraps around you. I mean, how do you feel in the GT86?
It felt the same way, Max.
Really?
And you were sitting very, very low. It had a distinct sports car feel. It was a very light package. It was about 200 pounds lighter than our cars. Very, very distinct, bespoke sports car feel, man. It was ideal. It's just that, you could tell they kind of ran out of money when they were trying to figure out what engine they were going to put in there, and they were also conscious of whether we're going to cannibalize sales of some of our other products.
Gotcha. There we go.
Yeah.
So where have we got here? Oh, we got someone. I think there's a guy that he's a local. Skip. He's saying it was a great day in Philadelphia yesterday, apparently.
No, it's been raining, as I said, every other day. It's raining again today.
Oh, right. For those of you that don't know, you might as well tell us, whereabouts are you based?
I'm in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Thank you for asking.
Born
and raised here.
There we go. In terms of questions, there we go. We've got some guys from Mauritius saying he believes in the car detailing as well. I've got to say, I love the dynamic handling of a car, but I like a car that doesn't have swirl marks on. So I'm a big fan of detailing. It's got to be said. I don't like it when I get tar or rubber on the car. I need to get that off. If I see bird muck on the car, that's got to come off straight away.
No, I see, Max, in your videos, you keep your cars pretty clean considering it's raining every other day in England as well.
Well, do you know how frustrating it is right now? The weather is gorgeous. It's sunny every day. We're not really allowed out to do non-essential journeys, so my car's hardly moved. I tell you what, I've been looking. This is the highlight for my week. I tell you, I'm just going a little bit stir crazy indoors. So this is the closest I get to basically getting out and about and meeting people in my Cayman.
And we are able to move and do some essential things here in the States. And, some other, go see family members and whatnot. And I've been taking advantage of that. And I got to tell you, man, the roads here, are, like we discussed, they're pretty much like open Autobahn out here, man. And I have probably been exploring and enjoying the car more than I probably ordinarily would, man. And it's been a joy.
Wow.
It's been an absolute joy to drive, As good as I thought the GT86 was from a platform standpoint, I would not give the Cayman back for anything in this world.
So Nate, here's a really interesting question we just got from Andy. So apparently the GT86, there's a supercharger upgrade to the car that can give you 340 brake.
Great question, but it makes the car horribly unreliable.
Oh, really?
Yes, and some of the turbocharger kits as well.
Wow.
Yeah, the turbocharger kits makes the car even more unreliable, but the superchargers are a little bit more reliable. But like if you're not upgrading some of the other stuff, some of the other components of the motor, I wouldn't be bothered with that at all.
Gotcha. So how long did you have the GT86 for then, if you don't mind me asking?
1 year. That's it.
Wow, that's quick, man.
Yeah, I got all my money back for the car because now they're actually starting to go up in value a little bit because people are starting to people track them a lot, and they realize that how good of a package it is, especially to go to a track. It's a great package to go to a track, and they're holding their value pretty well. And after a year, I had lost virtually nothing. Used my equity. I actually had equity in the car. Used my equity, what little bit I had to put down on this car, and the rest is history.
You know what? I just remembered we got a photo of your GT86, so let's just quickly put that up on screen. So that's
Sure.
the car, white as well, yeah.
Yeah, I forget what kind of white that was called. It was kind of an off white. I cannot remember the name for the life of me, Max, unfortunately. But I like white cars.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
like white cars. I don't know why. Silver. I'm partial to silver as well. I love all Porsche silvers and all BMW silvers.
While we're here, I'm just going to quickly put the photos up of your Cayman. So that's you in front of your Cayman at some kind of a Porsche meet, I think it was. So do you attend Porsche gatherings or something?
All the time, as much as I possibly can. I am in
Wow.
love with the brand. I doubt I will ever venture out into any other brands and do anything else other than Porsche at this stage in my life,
Wow.
man. I love the engineering. I love what Porsche does. I think they're kind of losing their way here because of emissions and some other regulations that are being put into place here. But I think they're going to be the last man standing, so to speak, as far as enjoyable sports cars.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really talk about it a lot because it was a long time ago, but when I was 25, I had a BMW E46 328 Ci, and I
Great
think
car.
it was a great car, but I think I felt a little bit let down in the sense that, like, I read about the car, and when I was younger, I was always sold by, the BMW slogan, 50-50 weight distribution. That was always in my mind, I
Yeah.
never thought about the engine layout. I always just went about the weight distribution. And I love the looks of that car. The E46, I just love that one.
Timeless, classic.
The M3 variant of that, I think there was an M3 CSL. That it's a valuable car now. So I think it's probably double list price in the UK because that one was it was stripped down a little bit. And I just think that was an awesome car. But my car, I think back then it was 197 brake horsepower, which doesn't sound that much now, but back in like 2000 or something, was it? Yeah, that was an awesome amount of power. But I felt I had reliability issues. I kept that car for about 8 years, and by then it just started to get a little bit unreliable for me, and that's kind of what let it down for me.
Yes, there's no bigger build than an older BMW.
Have you got experience? Actually, have you owned a BMW before?
Have I what now, Max?
Have you owned a BMW before?
Yes, I've owned two. So another great question. My first venture into BMW world was I had a 2008 328i
Okay.
manual. Great car. I ordered that car new. Had that car, I want to say 3 years until I got the M3 bug. I just wanted more power. I think the 328 of that year only had about 230, 235 horsepower and something like 220 pound-feet of torque. It was enough, but, you're always wanting for more power, unfortunately. And great car, felt reliable, never had one problem with the car. I think I traded that car in with about 18,000 miles on it.
This is before the M3. This is the 328, yeah?
This is right before the M3, yeah.
Okay.
So I traded that car in on the M3, which I also ordered new. Manuals here in this country, man, if you find one sitting on a lot, man, are you lucky? Are you fortunate? It's got to be something wrong with the car, I would say. Or it's a very fortuitous situation. But if you're buying a car new, for the most part, you're going to have to order a manual. And both of those cars were manuals, and I had to order them both. So the M3, I ordered that in 2011. Got the car, was absolutely in love with the car. But unfortunately, I had to sell the car. I had to pay for college, and divorce was pending as well. So I had to sell the car, and I would still like to buy that car back. The car is in Arizona somewhere. And I sold that car with about 15,000 miles on it, unfortunately.
You still do the same thing as me sometimes. I'm sorry to hear about why you had to kind of sell the car for the divorce and things, but sometimes I check reg plates and you want to know where is this car? Which state
absolutely,
is it in? Yeah.
Absolutely. Actually, the dealer that sold the car was a friend of mine, and he told me exactly where it went.
Okay.
So the car's in Arizona, and like I said, if I ever get some real play money, so to speak, some money I can just throw around, I'm going to buy that car back at some point.
So this allows me to ask some really interesting questions. So we've got the M3. So was that which edition was that, by the way? Do you know?
That was a competition package. I had a competition package.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you went from that, you went to the Scion GT86, and now you've got the current Cayman. So they're all very kind of different cars. So if you were blindfolded, how would you describe which had the better weight distribution that you felt through the corners?
Oh, the Cayman, hands down.
Really?
Hands down with that. I mean,
sorry, I had to ask that because you were saying how great the GT86 was. I wasn't too sure.
And I was just about to say, I give a nod to the GT86 as well, though, because it just shows so much how much development and how much they used the Cayman as a platform on that car. I mean, they did a phenomenal. Max, you got to consider, and I don't mean to dominate this. I know we're talking about Caymans here, but it goes without saying that car is only $25,000 new, or at least it was when I bought it. And for them to have that much engineering into a $25,000 car is phenomenal. But I don't want to talk about the.
Listen. We're getting Wazzy Machine. He's saying you're a true car guy, and we just keep it going, okay? Because I haven't planned today anyway, so we can just keep talking about anything, man.
I hear you. I just don't want to bore people with my. And it's not love for the GT86. I just respect fine car platforms, wonderful car platforms. Sure, there's cars I don't like, but I respect cars that are trying to do the right thing and have the right intentions, that have a sporty mind. That are just trying to be sporty. I respect the sporty car.
We hear you, and I think there was something from Andy earlier on. So I think our family car's a Honda. We have a Honda FRV.
My daily driver's a Honda.
There you go.
I have a 2006 Honda Accord.
And I think this channel is not like a supercar channel, but you've got to pick the right car for the job. Okay, that Honda. Absolutely. It's super reliable, and we pay nothing in servicing. It just keeps on going. It's a great battle horse,
Let me tell you, nothing can kill this 2006 Honda Accord I have. I mean, absolutely. I have 127,000 miles on the car, and it runs like new. It's phenomenal. I don't know what Honda does. Whatever they're doing, they need to bottle it.
Yeah. Well, we just got someone chiming in saying, you know what, the Nissan 350Z had one of those. I was thinking of getting a 350Z, then the 370Z before I got my Cayman, because it was obviously cheaper than the Cayman. But I think the one thing that put me down was the review said it's a great looking package, but the engine came out of like a family saloon or something, so it wasn't specially crafted for that car.
Right, and I was looking at one of those as well, but I was just put off by every reviewer said how heavy the car was, how much heavier the car was than our Caymans, and as more heavy than the GT86 as well. I mean, we're talking by a wide margin, 600 or 700 pounds, and I weight. I don't want to add weight, even though my M3 was heavy. That was around 3,600 pounds, but I had a stripper M3. I had no options. I had no options in the car because I couldn't afford any more options. The car was $62,000.
Yeah. But then there's not a lot more to put on top of a competition pack. I mean, you get a lot, don't you?
Well, I did want that because, just from a pure driving standpoint, it lowered the car 10 millimeters and gave me those fantastic CSL wheels, man. That was the package that I wanted. And I just didn't want to, I was pretty much at my wit's end in expense at that point anyway, and I just didn't want to add any more on top of that. Believe me, that car payment was something to behold.
I've just seen one comment from HS Gatora, and I just wanted to. This means a lot for me. But he basically said he owns a Cayman 987, the best car he's ever had, and it was a childhood dream to own one. So I would go as far as to say that when I was a child, I never thought people like me would ever get a Porsche because they were for wealthy people.
Same here.
Yeah.
Same here. I thought the same thing. As I said, I aspired, and never in a million years think I would ever own a Porsche in any variant. And, here we are, man. There's an old saying, you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
Well, this is kind of why I was quite grateful to Pinky Lie, because like the 911 was never a Porsche. So when I was growing up, there was obviously no Boxster or Cayman. It was the 911, and that was expensive. And then obviously the Cayman platform to me was a way that, other people could get into the brand. And, that meant a lot, that I could get a piece of that engineering, because, I mean, you can talk about it. You've owned a lot more cars than me, but you feel the engineering. You just feel the chassis handling. And there's something, I think they're the last car company left that kind of regular people can aspire to. So what I mean by that, we need to forget the Italian supercars, Paginis, Honda, Ferrari, Lambos, whatever. What you get for your money. It's not, the parts bin is not from BMW, Mercedes, or the Volkswagen Group. Most of those parts are just for the car. So they're special.
Well, I wouldn't aspire to any of the Italian brands anymore, though I love them. Don't get me wrong, but they don't make manuals anymore. So I that's not something I can aspire to anyway. I love Ferraris, love Lambos, but, when you stop making manuals, you've totally alienated me at that point. And I know everybody's going away from making manuals, but, I think it's a segment for the enthusiast that, is very, very important, and, it shouldn't be overlooked.
Yeah, it's a good point you mentioned, because I think there was an interview with Stephen Winkleman, who was like the big guy at VW, and then there was another one with the guy at Lambo, I've forgotten his name, but he literally said, with the power figures these cars deliver, a manual gearbox is just not up for it. You need that automatic gearbox, the dual clutch.
Right. But I'm not buying, Max, because I think with the same, if there was a larger take rate for the manual, they would develop sturdier manual transmissions, the same as they're developing sturdier PDKs and DCTs. So I just think it's a crock.
That's a fair thing. So we just got one question coming for you. Do you want the power of the Cayman S, or please explain the value of the base Cayman? So I think what he's saying is, was it a financial decision to get the base, or did you think that's the right one for you, full stop, because the extra power wouldn't make a difference?
A great question. It's the car that dropped into my lap at the time, and it was perfect. And it great service history. It just dropped into my lap at the time. And to be honest with you, the .2 base is as fast as the .1S.
Yeah. If
you look at the power figures. So, and Porsche does that every time with the .2 variant of whatever car that they make. They make the base as fast as the previous S. So, I didn't think I was really giving away much, if anything at all, when I got the base. And from everything I've read, the 2.9 liter is absolutely bulletproof for a motor. That's one of the few Porsche motors that you don't hear anybody having any issues with.
Yeah, I can see a few little comments, and we won't go into it in that much detail, but it's basically the whole manual versus PDK thing. But one thing that I was interested about is, if you look on the used car market around your area in the north of America, would you say most of the Caymans are PDK or base, or 50-50?
I think it's starting to become 50-50 now, because there's a lot of people, for whatever reason, I don't know what their financial situations are, they're getting out of their cars. So the enthusiasts that own these cars, by and large, are going to own manuals. So I'm starting to see more manuals now out on the for sale ads than ever before, I think, as a result. And, just the take rate for enthusiasts for automatics is just not very good. I'm not saying, and don't get me wrong, Max, I'm not anti-PDK or anti-DCT. That's not what I'm saying. I understand it's the purpose, and I understand those cars are probably more robust. They're probably more robust from a flat on speed standard, but that's just not what I'm looking for. I want to enjoy the drive. I want to feel like I'm piloting the car.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I took my car out only just to visit my mum, who's quite local. This was only like a couple of days ago. And obviously, as I was going through the gears, and I think obviously the car hadn't started for 3 weeks, and you had to get the transmission oil up to temperature. And as I was shifting through the gears, and I'm hoping it's the same on all cars, but when the transmission oil hasn't warmed up, the gear shift is a little bit more like notchy compared to when it's kind of all warmed up. And I was just thinking to myself, at some stage I'm going to have to change my clutch, because I've driven someone else's channel. I think Charlie's on this channel somewhere. When I was shifting in his clutch, it was so slick. There was none of this notchiness going into this gears, and I think at some stage I'm going to have to change my clutch. And I think with the PDK, I don't think you ever need. I've never heard of people changing clutch plates, because the computer does all the work. So I guess it manages the wear and tear.
Well, there is service for those PDKs too, and they do have some issues that really aren't, unless you're on the forums, you're really not going to know about.
Okay.
And I think the PDK does have a major service in there that you have to do. I mean, excuse my ignorance if I don't know that much about the PDK, but there are some issues with the PDK as well. So it's
well, listen, yeah, if someone's watching. If someone's watching and they know the issues with the PDK or the service interval stuff, put the comment up and I'll put it up on screen just so we can add a bit more detail. As you say, I mean, it's one of those things with the Cayman is that unless you own it, you don't know the issue. It's like, before I bought my Cayman, I never read about shifter cables snapping, okay? Once it happens to you, you go to Google and it's like, bang, oh, it's happened to me, and it's just one of those things.
Biggest problem, and to me, biggest disappointment with Porsche. Yeah. Porsche knows that is a known fault with this car, and I love the brand dearly, but they know this is a known fault with this car. If you have an old part number with this cable, this should always be goodwill. It should always be a goodwill service.
I'm with you there.
The labor, everything. If you have the old part number, there is no excuse for a car company that makes this kind of money, knowing that this part is defective, to not cover this part. This is not an if scenario with your cables going. It's when, as you well know, unfortunately, man.
Oh, it's $2,000 later, you know?
Yeah, I haven't had the problem yet, but I have a spare cable sitting in my garage.
Are you serious?
Just waiting. Yes, I'm serious. Yeah.
Wow.
I bought it about 2 years ago, just waiting for it to inevitably happen.
Wow. Actually, on that note, it's you've led into that quite nicely. I forgot to mention that so Numeric Racing is an outfit in the States, and they do like a strengthened shifter cables. I've reached out to the guy, and he's willing. The founder of Numeric Racing is agreed to be on a live stream with us.
Yeah, he's going to be live streaming next week, right?
I think it's 2 or 3 weeks from now. We've got Stephen in California next week.
Gotcha.
So that was quite cool for me. Like, you know, this is quite a small channel, as it were. And when you get enthusiasts, you know, we had a chat, and literally,
that's big, man.
Yeah, it's like big. Us talking. And I thought, I want to get. He's seen so many shifter cables come in, and he will say, they weren't made up to scratch, really. So.
And I'm not going to advertise for them, but from everything that I've read, every account that I've read, an extremely robust cable. I have never heard of one snapping.
Yeah. The
design is apparently different than what Porsche offers. Everybody says that after you install these cables, it's rifle bolt action as far as shifting is concerned. This is the cable that Porsche should have installed in the first place. For everything that I've read, it's a phenomenal product, and I can't wait for the live stream for you to talk to this guy.
So just out of interest, the cables that you've got sitting in backup, what brand are they?
Unfortunately, they are still Porsche cables, but I would entertain the idea, depending on how annoyed I am when these cables go. I would entertain the idea of purchasing some numerics and just selling the ones that I bought as a standby.
So do you plan for contingencies quite a lot? Because that's quite a unique thing to have a spare set of cables ready for when they snap. Is that because you got the cables on a good offer, or you just think it's going to happen to you?
Both. I got the cables for $100, and the guy was parting out the car, and they were brand new, basically. Okay. I think his had just snapped, and he had just put them on the car, and then something happened to the car. He had to part the car out. And I just know it's a wear item on these cars. And it's not if, it's when. They're going to go. You know, I just hope I'm not 500 miles from home, you know, when they do go. Yeah,
I know, like, in a way, when I got mine changed, I felt glad that when I was doing a road trip 500 miles away from home, I just know that on new cables, there's no, I mean, if they did snap, I would go nuts. But you just know, mine snapped after about 50,000 miles of driving. So generally, you should be good for the rest of the car.
Yeah, I know I'm way over time at this point. Like I said, I'm over 61,000. And I can only assume at this point that someone had them changed before I acquired the car, because for them to not go in almost 30,000 miles here, that is an aberration. And I know I'm living on borrowed time at this point.
Yeah. So we just had a question coming. I'm not sure what the roads are like where you live, but someone's just coming and asking you, what type of drives do you take your Cayman on? Because you mentioned you've got the Honda as your daily driver. So is your Cayman kind of like a special car? Do you take it on certain routes?
Great question. Yes, it is that car. It's the weekend car. It's the, you know, the spirited driving car when I need it. I need some zen, some relaxation. It's the car I take out of the garage, and I just, you know, I just go on a trip for no reason. You know, I daily drive my Honda every day. Unfortunately, Philadelphia is not the type of city where, you know, I can go drive the car to work every day. Parking is expensive here. I'd be worried to death where the car is sitting all day, you know, whether somebody's just going to key it or something for no reason because of, you know, whatever feelings they have about Porsche drivers. You know, it's just not an ideal situation for me to drive the car every day. So I have a, you know, I have a 2006 Honda Accord that I drive every day. It's boring. It's like driving your couch around, a very reliable couch.
Exactly.
But,
Yeah.
But it you know, it's a reliable car and something I don't have to worry about anybody, you know, mucking around with.
Yeah.
You know.
We've just had two questions on the same topic come in, and I think I know what the answer is, but like I'm going to hand it over to you. They're basically saying, is there any way that you can check the condition of your cables?
From what I'm reading, yeah, you can go under the car and check the ends of the cables to make sure that there's no no play in them, I guess, from what I'm reading. Now, again, guys, I'm not a mechanic.
Yeah.
But from what I'm reading, there's some way you can go under the car and kind of check.
Well, I'll tell you something that I learned, because when they snapped on me, literally I was stranded. Half the car was on the road, half was on a pavement. It was kind of like, we have these things called roundabouts. You guys only have cross.
I saw your video.
Okay.
I saw your video. I know exactly where you were. You know, for the exception of me never having gone to England before, I know exactly. I can almost picture where you were, Max. And it was a bad scene.
It was bad, but there was something amazing. When I got to the Porsche garage, it came off the trailer. It was stuck in second gear, so obviously, like, it was all engaged and everything. So to move it, someone had to sit in the car and keep the foot on the clutch. The guy from the Porsche garage, he goes under the back of the car. You'll see where the transmission block is. There's like a little plastic arm. And you effectively you can go under any Cayman and just change gears, or I think you can definitely go second to neutral just by touching something.
Right. I just read that as well, so that's absolutely right. And you know, by and large, though, this is something that's just going to happen, man. You're going to have no warning whatsoever, you know. And it's my understanding also that it's always one cable that goes, one of the two. Yeah. It's always one of those two cables. I can't remember which one it is, but it's always the one with the most stress. You know. Yeah,
I mean, I think in terms of probability, I think the laws are going to be impossible. Well, not impossible for both to go. It would have to kind of go bam, bam. So usually with me, I was shifting into second, then it went. But you could be shifting into third. So I think it's one cable does the movement like that way, and one sort of does the movement that way.
Right. I saw a guy just this morning in preparation for our live stream here. Guy said, I had never heard this before. The guy, he said his went going into reverse. His car was literally stuck in reverse. I had never heard that.
I shouldn't laugh. Oh my God, that's bad.
So imagine that.
Not good. But I mean, aside from that, I mean, I take your point. It's a known issue. They should make a gesture of goodwill, or at least give you the parts for free. But you know, I think that unfortunately, there's nothing perfect in life. Even though I love my Cayman, you have to grow with it and, you know, appreciate it for what it's worth. You know.
Right. And these cars have other issues as well, but they're just not as pronounced as the shifter cable. Our water pumps are not very robust.
Yeah.
Those cooling pipes are an issue that you had an issue with as well. There's a couple of other things. Coils go, you know, but to me, that's a wear item. I don't really consider that much. Definitely the air oil separator. My God, that's an issue as well. I'm reading about one of them every other day.
Wow.
Where, you know, now everybody's got a big puff or plume of smoke coming out the back because the air oil separator has gone. Wow. And that can get pretty pricey to replace one of those.
We've got a guy just asking if you do any maintenance yourself, because obviously you're fairly knowledgeable about these things. Do you do any maintenance? Would you change your oil yourself?
No, I just don't have the time. Like you know, Max, we've talked before. I have a 21-month-old son now. You know,
congratulations!
I'm almost 50 years old, and I have a 20-month-old son. So I just don't have the time. I probably could wrench and do those things, but I don't mind paying for decent work.
Yeah.
As long as it's not too expensive, too pricey. I'll pay to have things done with a bona fide mechanic who I trust, and just better served to do it than I am.
I mean, I'm like you. I mean, before I had kids and stuff, like, I'd have a lot of time. I would sand my floors, do my fences, do my side gate, paint the outside of the house, because you had the free time. But then, obviously, once your situation changes, we all need a bit of downtime, and downtime is valuable. So
and honestly, man, these cars are so well built, that I haven't had to do a lot. One of the biggest surprises with this car, Max, is that you read on the forums first, and only the people on the forums are having issues. So you're thinking this is going to be the most horrible purchase you ever make in your life.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, like I said, the only issue I've had with this car in almost 5 years, the anniversary's next month, is that the clutch interlock switch went. That's it. And that's been the biggest shocker in owning this car, man. This car has been stone reliable as my Honda.
Hey, Nate, I've got some good news for you, man. Got some really good news for you. You ready for this?
Yes.
So we've got a comment. This guy says, I thought you were mid-30s. He can't believe you're nearly 50.
Yeah, I'll be 50 in October. I appreciate the compliment. But that also comes along with some added stress of being able to make babies at much later than you should.
Actually, we probably shouldn't go into this topic, but your internals are in fine form to still be productive.
Yeah, that's a double-edged sword, unfortunately, Max.
Oh dear. Oh, this is supposed to be a car channel. See, this is what happens if I don't plan anything. Okay.
Right.
There you go. But are you a bit of a gym guy then, or something? So like
I am in my line of work. I'm in law enforcement here in the States, and
okay.
You better be physically fit. You most likely you're going to have to survive something for 30 seconds or more and be able to get yourself out of it.
So how do you find the steerings between the M3, the Toyota, and the Cayman? So you've got the 987 Gen 2, which is obviously the hydraulic steering. So in terms of the weighting of the steering wheels, how would you compare those three cars?
Wow, man, that is a fantastic question. More feel in the Cayman probably than the three cars. The GT86 had electric steering. I gotta say, I've driven some other cars with electric steering. That was some of the finest electric steering that I have ever experienced. But nevertheless, it's still electric steering. That's the best compliment I can give it. But the best. I haven't driven any Porsches with electric steering. They're all electric steering now. If Porsches is better than that, then man, that's some damn good electric steering. I gotta say. The M3, the only issue that I had with the M3, let me say something. Phenomenal V8 motor. That motor, the S65 and the M3, is one of the masterpieces of motor engineering that I have ever experienced, especially in the upper levels of the rev range. But the car is saddled with weight. It's just, 3,600-pound car. I just don't have any real desire to go back to that again after you're driving a 2,900-pound Cayman.
Yeah.
So from a steering feel standpoint, the winner's the Cayman all day. With hydraulic steering and a 2,900-pound car, it's not even close.
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard the steering on the Cayman to go, like the hydraulic system, because on my BMW, when I had my E46, after about 8 years, you'd get to a point where it must be the power steering pump was out on its way out, because it'd be, all of a sudden it would kind of get really stiff, and then it would all free up again, and you could tell something was just going wrong with that system.
Yeah, that's the telltale sign that your rack or power steering pump is going bye-bye.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
So in the 5 years that you've owned your Cayman, have you only done things like oil and filter? You've had no kind of big issues. I think you mentioned the clutch interlock to switch, which is pretty cheap.
Another good question. That's another good question. So I follow Porsche's prescribed maintenance religiously. I have a printout of what they want done with these cars from a mileage standpoint and a time standpoint as well. I got to admit, Max, I don't follow the time standpoint as religiously as the mileage, but I follow the mileage religiously. Whatever Porsche wants done with these cars at mileage intervals, I'm there. I'm doing. In fact, I even do some of the stuff early. But time, no, I don't. I'm not a big believer in, okay, so the oil hasn't been changed, and I'm probably going to get a lot of feedback from your viewers here. I'm not a big believer in, okay, so the oil hasn't been changed in a year. Let me change the oil. I'm not a big believer in that, man. Especially if I'm driving the car on a semi-regular basis. If the car is sitting for a year, absolutely. I'm not going to drive a car with oil that's been sitting in it for a year. No way. Even 6 months or even a few months if I haven't driven the car. But yeah, if I'm driving the car on a semi-regular basis, let's say I've only put 2,500 miles on the car in a year, I'm just not changing the oil just for the sake of, okay, it's a year, the oil needs to be changed.
Yeah, no, I hear you. But actually, this week, someone reached out to me, and sorry, I can't remember your name if you're watching now, but he sent me oil analysis reports he did on his Cayman. So what they do, it's like a blood test. They take a bit of oil out of your Cayman, and they send it back to, you get a metallurgy report, like copper, iron.
Blackstone.
Yeah, that's the one. So I've never seen this stuff before, and he's got this massive sheet come back, and I don't even know how to read this, and it got me thinking.
I was going to say the same thing, Max. I don't even know how to read that chart. That was big in the BMW forums because there were rod bearing issues with my particular M3. There were rod bearings, so getting one of those oil analysis tests was very, very important to have done on a pretty regular basis. But I couldn't for the life of me read the chart. I don't profess to be the brightest bulb under the circus tent. Yeah. But I could not.
Well, that's both of us. Well, listen, we got to pay. We got to kind of do a bit of service to you. You mentioned that you're in the service, so Skip was just basically saluting you for the good service that you do for looking after everyone. So
I appreciate that very much. I'm not a hero, but I appreciate being looked upon as one. But give it to.
Can I say something? Oh, it's a bit controversial now, but I was just thinking of a film that I really like, where there's a police detective and he owns a Porsche. Okay.
Yes.
Which film am I thinking about?
Look, I just enjoy. I think a lot of law enforcement enjoy cars that can get out of their own way, so to speak. We're kind of rapidly trying to get to locations all the time, and I think it just translates or crosses over to our personal lives that we want something that can move and something that's nimble, that can get out of its own way.
Yeah.
But again, thanking that person that thanks me, give it to the doctors and the nurses that are responding to this COVID crisis that we're having. Give them the praise. They're literally on the front line every day.
Sure.
That's the Lord's work, so to speak. Those are the people that deserve your admiration, not me, though I do appreciate it.
So I've got one question, and answer this as honestly as you can, and don't be afraid,
Sure.
okay? Because I know you mentioned you detail your car. I like looking after my car. I come to your neck of the woods. I come visit you. You pick me up at the airport, okay? And I'm eating a burger and fries on the passenger seat. And I accidentally spilled my fries on the carpet.
Get the hell out.
You shouldn't have even let me in the car.
No. If I see you eating, approaching my vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I've seen the end of that movie. Yeah, that's going to end. That's going to be like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with you being somewhere, hitching a ride somewhere on a Greyhound bus.
Do you generally have passengers actually with you in your Cayman, or is it more just you driving the car?
No, I don't mind passengers as long as they're abiding by the rules that we just talked about. There's no eating in my car. You can drink water. You can't be. You could not have just come from a job site and you're all messy and grungy.
Yeah.
And get in the car. No, I don't. I'm sorry. I'm just that way. No, because it takes me, Max. It takes me about 2.5 hours to clean this car.
Yeah.
To a satisfaction.
Well, so here's a question. So listen, you're lucky you have a garage, okay? Because over here, I don't even have one. So if the sun's beating down, forget it. There's no point washing the car when the sun's out, because I'm just going to get water spots everywhere.
Right. Yeah, I'm fortunate enough to have a garage. and it takes me about 2.5 hours to get the car back to a standard where I had it prior to whatever's just happened.
Yeah.
You know, whether it be rain or whatever. I don't take this car out in snow at all. You know, if snow has been in the forecast or it has snowed, I wait probably several days until we've had a good soaking rain to wash everything off of the ground, including any salt or solution that they've used to melt the snow.
Yeah.
I wait until rain washes that away before I take the car out. I do drive the car in the winter, but again, I wait until everything is off the ground until I pull the car out.
Good for you, good for you. So, I mean, what I'd like to do, we kind of like hit a kind of a nice topic there. Put down in the comments, please, do you allow food to be eaten in your Cayman or not? I won't put all the answers up now, but later on, I'll try and like total up the tallies and put a little vote at the end. Some people don't mind eating food in Caymans. I know there's a guy I know with the 718 GT4. The worst thing I've seen in his car, he was eating a butter croissant. That flaky pastry.
Serious?
Oh, I'm not kidding. And he had Alcantara seats. And I'm going, are you crazy?
Look, to each his own. Do what you want in your own cars, but, you know, it's just getting these cars meticulous again. And I get it. The Cayman is not a museum piece.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a 250 GTO Ferrari or anything like that. I get that, you know, but just getting these cars meticulous again, it's time I really don't have, but you know, it's just more time I'm going to have to dedicate to getting the car nice again. And I
respect all owners, because some owners can drive with just, you know, last week's food on the footwell, but that's just not me. So, you know, I respect everyone.
No, I just vacuumed my car out yesterday, and it's only been me in the car for the past 2 weeks, and I just vacuumed it out.
I hear you. It's got to be done. So we've had one question. Seeing as you've had your Cayman for 5 years, have you had to change the tyres? And if so, which tyre brand did you swap them out for?
Man, your viewers asked some great questions, man. All right, so I had 17-inch wheels that come on the base Cayman when I purchased the car. They were the factory stock 17s. As I said in the video that we filmed leading up to this live stream, I didn't like the way the tires and wheels filled up the wheel arches on these cars at all. They look like bottle caps to me. So I upgraded to an 18-inch wheel, a 987.2 Cayman S wheel. I upgraded to that 18-inch, and I surrounded them with Continental Extreme Contact tires on those wheels. And so I have had to upgrade, only because I upgraded to a bigger tire pack. A bigger wheel package. So I love the Conti Extreme Contacts. It's everything. It's 9/10 of the Michelin for a lot less money.
Yeah.
So yes, I have to answer that question. I have had to upgrade tires.
That's a cool answer, because I know there's a couple of guys who've got 718 GT4s, and there's this kind of like so this is basically the guys that featured on a live stream the first one I did, and so half the guys got Dunlops and the other half got the Michelin tires. And I think what they were saying was that the Dunlops are actually a more everyday tyre for a GT4, and unless you're going to go on track, you're not going to get the benefit of the Michelin. So even though I run Michelin Pilot Sport 4Ss on my car, I think, to be quite honest, I think it's a psychological thing. I don't think I'm getting the benefit of these tyres, but in my head, I know I'm running the best tyres.
I think, you know, these tires are so good now, Max. If you're exploring the limits of these tires now, man, you are driving some really irrational speeds, because these tires are just so good at gripping now. Dunlops are few and far between over here in the States. I think Goodyear owns Dunlop now, and I think it's just easier to get Goodyears over here. I don't think they're pushing the subsidiary brand so much over here in the States anymore. Dunlop used to be a big brand over here in the States, but not so much anymore. But, Michelin is Michelin over here. They're Michelin's God over here in the States.
We've just had a comment, one word from the owner of 78 GT4 with the Michelins, and he's just put one word that says controversial topic. So let's move off the topic of tyres and stuff, because I guess everyone's got their favourite. So here's a really good one we got from Andy. Did the change to 18-inch rims, did you feel the handling, the dynamics, did you feel the car drove differently?
Wonderful question again, man. I thought that there possibly would be a slight degradation in ride quality. I got to tell you, there has been nothing discernible as far as a quality drop off since I have upgraded to 18-inch wheels. In fact, I would go so far as to say I think this car was designed and developed specifically with 18-inch wheels in mind for this car. If I had to find one negative to upgrading to 18-inch wheels, is that I think the car was probably more slidable with the 17 inches, the thinner tires, than it is now. But let me tell you, the grip will rip your face off now with the 18s as opposed to the 17s.
Yeah.
You know, I would imagine, Max, that the grip is even better still with your 19-inch wheels that you have. You know, but yeah, compared to the 17s that I had on the car, yeah, the grip will rip your face off now. But the car was probably maybe dancing on its tippy toes, maybe a little bit more with the 17s as opposed to the 18s. But now you can't throw it off the road with no degradation in ride quality whatsoever.
Well, you see, I have to be careful because if I drive in a certain manner, there are going to be people like you in my local country who are going to be telling me off and taking my license away. So generally, I've never... Track days is what I would probably, get close to the limits, but I haven't even taken my car on track yet. So I think that's something
haven't either. I haven't either, and that's another interesting point. I'm not into hastening more service, using more consumables. So, I doubt from that standpoint that I may ever track the car, because I just don't want to, rush the instance of something breaking on the car, and don't get me wrong, I don't begrudge anybody for tracking their car. That's what these cars were made for. But, a nice spirited drive is enough for me, Max.
Yeah, no, agreed. So we could keep talking forever, and we'll continue. I just realised we went over the hour, so I'm going to open up questions to anybody. So send in your questions now. That was just me putting a bit of an audio shout out there. If you've got questions for Nate while we've got him, the owner of a great... Actually, are there any other cars you want to talk about? We were going through the cars, and then the minute you mentioned M3 GT86, that just locked something into my head, and we just focused on that.
Great. We go into my first car in 1990.
Oh my God! Hang on. Sorry someone's done something which I didn't even know you could do. So someone seems to have paid $1.99 to put a chat question up to you. Oh my God.
Wow.
I didn't even know you could do this.
I'm not worth $1.99.
Oh my God. That would really help, because what happened last week is my camera overheated. Like, running this stuff's pretty expensive. This is a $4,000 camera just in front of me, and then I had to buy a box so my computer could recognise it, and then I've had to buy whatever for the camera so it doesn't overheat.
That
this
camera
time
costs more than my Honda, Max.
but look, you can see all my pimples and everything if it focuses it. There you go. Oh dear. Anyway, no. So listen, that was a great question. So you've mentioned quickly go over the upgrade you've done. You did the sports tips, is that right? It's not an exhaust, but you've done tips.
No. I did the whole exhaust, and the tips came with it. Okay. That was another reason to upgrade. These questions are so wonderful, man. So that was the reason to upgrade the entire exhaust, because you basically got on the base Cayman, you only get a single outlet exhaust. So upgrading the cat back was, you basically got the dual tips for free.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah. So which manufacturer did you buy that from?
Fab Speed.
Gotcha. You did say that. Yeah, sorry. Apologies.
Yeah. Fab Speed. So, and I would have wanted the dual outlets anyway, because I think it looks very, very wimpy with just a singular exhaust coming out the back. So I said, how can I get more sound and get the dual tips at the same time? Yeah. Lo and behold, this is one solution in one, but I only have to pay once.
Very good, yeah. So we've got some we've got some from Kevin. You've been an amazing, lovely, interesting chap. Stay safe. Max, first time join. Oh, so this is the first time someone's joined us on a live stream. He's going to be back next week. I guess he's got to shoot off now. So, you know, this whole live stream thing only came about because of lockdown. You know, I couldn't reach out to you guys. And one thing I've learned from this is everyone that's featured on every Sunday slot, apart from the very first one, they've all been abroad. They've all been in the US. So these are guys that I could have never seen anyway. So I'll hope to continue this. I'm sure we could keep talking for a bit. So I'm going to go through these questions.
I hope you have me on again, Max. This has been wonderful, man. And the questions are amazing, man. I love talking about these cars. I could talk about them all day.
This is a cool one, but you don't have to answer. So the guy goes, define a spirited drive as a police officer in the United States.
It would be the same drive that whoever asked that question would have. I'll just leave it at that. It would be the same type of drive.
So I know Phil, and he's entirely correct. So I do YouTube as a passion. Someone, I didn't even know you could do this. Someone donated $2, Cream Disco. On YouTube, I've spent thousands, like almost $10,000. I make about $2 a month. It's about $2 every three weeks from ad revenue stuff. So this guy's just teasing me, that's saying that in this one live stream I've earned my month's worth of ad revenue.
Now you have to have me on again, man.
There you go. So we've got a few other questions. How rare is the 987R in the US?
Well, I could tell you that they are going for big money. They're all in about the, I want to say high 40s, low 50s. Wow. As far as selling on like Bring a Trailer and some of the other auction sites, they're going for big money. They are a rare beast. Very few and far between, man. Yeah. Very few and far between. I see one every few days, listed somewhere, but definitely not as prevalent as base and S's.
Okay, and here's one that I like, and I should have asked you this one. So we both own a 987, but what are our views on the design lines on the external of the 981 and the 718?
Wow. I've always said 987 is classic Porsche. 981 is future Porsche. It's current Porsche. Yeah, same with the 718 because the lines are basically the same. I just believe that the 987 has it just harkens back to Porsches of old more so than the 981 does. It's current day, modern day Porsche, the 981. Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's just I prefer classic Porsche.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think so. I do kind of like the lines of the 981. I think I always get confused whether I go 981 or 987. But as I've had a 1 hour Skype chat with Pinky Lie, and knowing that you have he penned the 987, and that was the first one, and that kind of made me feel a bit more special towards my 987. So
absolutely, I agree with you. I'll put it in even more succinct terms. 987's analog. 981's digital. Nothing wrong with either. But I think that puts it in the best terms.
There we go. And in fact, so the guy that just... I'm not sure when this commentator just sort of joined, but you know the guy that I mentioned who eats a butter croissant on his Alcantara... It's this guy, he's watching right now. So... but wow. It's your car. You can do what you like, man. There we go.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. You can eat, but just not in mine, man. It's just, I'm thinking of how much time and effort it's going to take to get butter out of my seats.
Exactly. The questions keep coming. So are you okay on time, Nate? Can we sort of still keep going?
Question away, man. I got
brilliant. So if you could get another Cayman, which one? And I guess let's do money. Let's say I give you, $100,000, and you got to spend it on a car. So it's a kind of a money no object.
Easiest question of the day: 718 GTS, the upcoming 718 GTS.
Oh, really? Over the GT4?
No question about it.
And what makes you jump for that as opposed to the 718 GT4?
Because I think the GT4 is a little bit too track focused for what it is that I do when I go out and drive. As I said, my cars may never, ever see a track in their life. And I think the GTS has the proper balance for street. And maybe if one day out of the 10 years of ownership, I decide to go out to a track and explore its limits, I think it's best suited for that type of owner, that type of driver.
Yeah, I hear you. Oh, I think I can retire now. So I'm not sure if this is some trick or something, but apparently Phil, who's the owner of a 718 GT4, I'm not sure if he's donated me 5 Swiss francs or has he just typed that out as a comment. So if I have made 5 Swiss francs, I'm going to retire now. Nate, I'll split it with you 50-50. I've never had anyone pay anything to be on this channel. So, there you go.
That's a good omen, man. That's a really good omen.
I think maybe I'm not going to plan these live streams anymore. So, maybe that's the message. There we go. Oh,
I enjoy this, man. I think this is a wonderful thing, especially, so many of us are locked down. We can't drive, unfortunately. This is just what a quarantine. This is just what a quarantine needs, man. If you're locked up and you can't go out and you can't drive, this is just what the doctor ordered, Max. And I thank you.
Yeah, we've got a guy that wants 90 minutes. That's only about 15 minutes away from now, but we'll keep talking. One thing I think we didn't really get onto. Sorry. I need to apologise. So I need to apologise to Phil. He really did donate 5 Swiss francs to me. So Phil, I apologise to you. No one's ever done this before. I don't even know how this thing works. I didn't even know this was possible.
Thank you, Phil.
Humble apologies. Okay. Listen, that's it. I'm just going to retire now. Thank you very much, Phil.
Thank you, Phil. And well deserved, Max.
Well, we'll have to split it with you. I'll have to donate a little bit to some of your good causes. So, in fact, that's what I'll do. Okay, like at the end of the day, this channel's not about. I spend more money on this channel than anything. I'll donate all the money that I've had to to help the doctors or something. So let's just do that.
Extremely noble, man, and you have my blessing on that, man. That's extremely noble, D. That's what a hero is, not me.
Yeah, I think I saw a Vehicle Virgins video today. I think he had the Corvette C8. And he was basically saying to his subscribers, he goes, anyone that buys 4 pieces of merchandise from his channel, like T-shirts and stuff, he would put a special mention out to them. And I was just thinking, these guys just want to make money out of these people, And
that channel specifically, he's not hurting for money.
No,
Yeah, so I don't understand why you got to buy so much merchandise for him to make a shout out, but. I'm not going to get into anybody else's business.
Yeah, no, agreed. So the other cars you've mentioned, we pretty much covered the 3 main cars. Are there any other cars that you've owned that you just like to talk about?
Like I went into before we actually got on live, several Mitsubishis. They were all pieces of junk, unfortunately. This is when Chrysler was heavily involved. I believe they were the parent company of Mitsubishi at the time. Gallants, one Gallant, a Diamante. I don't believe it was called the Diamante overseas where you are, but the Diamante was interesting. It had the 3000 GT motor in it.
Oh, well, that was a nice looking car.
Yeah, but it was naturally aspirated. It wasn't the turbo 3000 GT motor, so that was a real. It was a boat anchor. That car was just uninspiring. Let me see what else I've owned. Several Hondas. I don't think I can envision a life where I don't own a Honda as my primary daily driver. Such wonderful automobiles. Another great engineering company. And you just can't kill them, Max.
Oh, my God.
You can't kill them.
This is going crazy now. So there's something called Super Chat. We've just had £5 come in from Clive Harper, who's basically found out how to do this. And then we've had another one from Andy, who's donated £10. So this is all...
Andy. Andy's a good chat, man. Not to steal your terminology over there overseas. Andy's a wonderful guy. He's always commenting on your videos. He and I talk back and forth when you live stream. Andy seems like a wonderful, wonderful guy, man. Good for
Yeah.
you, man.
So he's got a GT4, the 981, and I think he seems to get the handling dynamics and the kind of the technical details.
Right.
So that's that.
Right.
You know, it's really nice when you see people that they know the details of their car. So you know, my Honda that I've got over there, I know it's got 4 wheels and it's got some seats, but I wouldn't know too much about what's under the hood. You know,
right.
I'm pretty sure it's a 1.6, but that's about it. But with the Cayman, it just inspires you to know more about the car and, you know, try and connect with the machine.
Absolutely. I agree with that, man. You know, and you know, something we haven't covered. Did you ever believe, Max, I'm going to ask you a question now. Yeah. Did you ever believe you'd own a mid-engine car at this price point?
Never.
At this price point, Max.
I know. I think
that's phenomenal, man.
Yeah.
I mean, growing up, you know, as kids, I thought mid-engine cars were going to be Ferraris or Lamborghinis, man. And I never thought in a million years I'd be able to.
Well, they were. So I think I was watching some car fiction. I can't remember which video it was, but it said back in the 80s, the US didn't have much of a car market. So you all looked to abroad, like the European cars. So it's the Ferrari Testarossa, the Lamborghini Countach, and it was the Porsche 911. So these were the poster cars. So here's a great question. Which, as a child, did you have any posters of cars up on your wall, bedroom wall?
Yeah, they were Porsches, they were Ferraris, you know, Lamborghinis, some Astons. I've liked them all. My dad was he was a muscle car guy though. He was 70s muscle all the way through and through, and that started my love of cars. But I didn't have an affinity for American muscle as much as the Europeans. You know, I looked at the Europeans as, hey, that's different, and you know, those are some pretty good cars from an engineering standpoint. They're fast and they're also nimble. They're nimble as well because, you know, 70s muscle cars, you know, you throw a turn in there and, you know, everything starts to fall down. You know what I mean? So I wasn't interested in that. I liked road racing, you know, where, you know, it wasn't just all left-hand turns. You know what I mean? I like genuine road racing. So these cars were always going to be appealing to me. Something that could go around a track with left and right-handers, you know, up hills, down hills, you know, where braking came into play, and also, you know, different engine displacements. So the Europeans had that in spades.
Wow. This is just going crazy now. Nate, I don't know what you've done to this channel. Wazzy Machine from the US has just donated $10, so I don't know what's going on. This is we'll have to find some really good cause.
I'm happy, man. This is what I do. I could talk about cars for weeks.
So one thing on the video that you did for us, you use the words garbage with something in your car, okay? And we've just had a question that says, what kind of sound system do you have? Because this guy, I literally says, what kind of sound system does Nate have in the Cayman? My Bose bangs loud.
All right, so I don't listen to the stereo all that much, I must admit, because I'm listening to our flat 6 motors. Yeah. But when I do listen to the stereo, the head units that come in these cars are, as I said in the video, they're garbage. They're garbage. I upgraded to a JVC head unit. JVC head unit in my car that I got off of a website here in the States. I ended up getting the unit for maybe, I think it was like $100. My car didn't come equipped with Bluetooth. So it also had that. That was an upgrade to get Bluetooth in the car, hands-free, and also being able to play, stream my music through the stereo as well. And let me tell you, when I tell you it woke up the stereo system, the speakers are not the fault in our cars.
Oh, really?
I sincerely believe that, and I'm not an audio engineer, obviously. It's the head unit. The head unit is the fault of these cars. It woke up the stereo tremendously. The stereo sounds totally different from what I can recall. I mean, I had that done 4.5 years ago, so I can't really remember what the stereo sounded like before. But I got to tell you, it's. I'm not going to say high fidelity now, but it is a tremendous improvement over what it was. It really woke the stereo up.
Wow, awesome, awesome. I want to put a special shout out to Matthew Kidd, who's just donated $2.99. I keep getting these interesting messages. Here it says pair character. Oh, you know what? So it must be my software. I think I get this text that says pair character stretching his arm forward, raising his thumbs up or something. So I think what happens when we watch this back live or on the replay, there'll be some type of special icon that you can choose or something.
Nice.
Yeah, but it's just it's just. Well, listen. All I can say to you guys, thank you so much, because I'll mention it to the wife before I tell her I'm going to donate the money, because just this week I've literally spent a fair bit on kit to keep this thing going. We still haven't overheated yet, so that's great, mate.
No, look, man, what you're doing for everybody that's locked in, this is phenomenal, man, and I know this is an expensive setup. I'm looking behind you, and I know how much, what kind of an expenditure this is, man. I went out looking for equipment, trying to get set up for this as well. And, it was the type of deal where, first of all, nothing was open where I could get it here in time, get it sent here in time. And then I was like, you know what, I got some stuff around the house. I think I can make do, but, putting out $4,000, the way you've done, man, is admirable. It's admirable.
You like a clean car. I think I'm a little bit obsessive, so I wanted to get some cheaper gear for this live stream, but as you say, it's pretty hard to get equipment these days. So the device that I had to buy that turns the camera into a video signal, it's kind of like broadcast quality, so it's not necessarily meant for the average consumer. So then again, I've got one of these mindsets that the more you learn about the detail, you drill down, and once you know about something, so there's something called color space. Well, I know we're a bit off topic now, but you get like 444, 442, RGB. There's loads of different color spaces. So if I look at your kind of your video signal right now, it's not as balanced as, say, like the one I see on the other side. But that's because it's like is it on an iPad you at the moment?
Yeah, I'm on an iPad here, and I was going to I said to you, I was going to order a camera specifically dedicated for this, and I couldn't. Amazon wouldn't get it here in time, because what's going on, obviously, outside of everybody's house. And I said, you know what, I have something suitable here in the house, and I said, let's see if I can make do with that. But if people keep sending in donations, man,
this is crazy. So the guy that's going to be on next week, oh my God! So Steven's from California. He's just dropped in $20. So that's crazy. That's crazy stuff, man. So Steve's on next week. Okay, he's on California, another 987, which will be great. Okay, and I'm going to do the same amount of preparation I did for this live stream, which is nothing.
Which is none at all.
Yeah, exactly. So listen,
I like it, man. It seems to work best.
I think when you do something for the first time, it's kind of a bit new and stuff. So I'll try and wrap up in about 6 minutes. So let's try and bring it back to cars and stuff. So thanks, Stephen. That's most appreciated. Okay. Actually, while Stephen's watching, I'm not wearing it at the moment because I don't walk anymore. But he's into watches. Will it focus on that?
Yes.
Oh, it's a bit too bright, but it's a German watch because I thought I like craft work and they do music. So I quite like the colour on that because I had a black watch before, and that's for you, Stephen. Okay, now you can get to see what watch I've got because I know he likes his watches as well. Let's get back on topic. I'm going to let you talk now. You can take the last 5 minutes. Let's talk about some of the other cars that you've had that we didn't quite get onto.
Yeah, I've had I want to say 4 Hondas, 2 Mitsubishis. My first car that I ever purchased was a 1978 Pontiac Grand Prix SJ. I don't know what the equivalent of that car is or was overseas in 1978, but it was a piece of garbage. It was a big old V8, American V8, that was strangled with emissions stuff that made approximately 175 horsepower. Wow. It was really neutered. Yeah, it was really neutered. I think a 301, 300 cubic inch V8 with only 175 horsepower. That would be about 5,000 horsepower now if someone made a 300 cubic inch motor, V8 motor. That was my first car. My second car was a 1983 Chevy Cavalier. And I used to know what the European equivalent of that car was, but I can't remember what that was. Another piece of absolute garbage. I bought that off bought that off. Sorry, there. Somebody
right.
called my phone. Bought that off of a repair lot, which that was the first omen that that car was going to be garbage. The car never ran right. I ended up leaving that somewhere in the street, and I assumed that somebody came and got it. That's the best I can tell you. Then I started on to Hondas. I had a Honda Civic DX. That was a wonderful car. I would probably own that car, the 84 Honda Civic DX. Wonderful car. That was a manual. The Cavalier was a manual as well. I would still own that Honda Civic DX. If not, I blew a head gasket in that car. That car would have run forever, man. I enjoyed that car immensely. Bought another Honda Accord, 83 Honda Accord liftback. That car just rusted away on me. The body just literally rusted away. I think Honda during that period was buying steel from China, and all of those cars rusted during that era, the Chinese steel that Honda was buying. My car history gets a little murky after that. I don't know what I had after that. Some Dodge Colts, which would have been a Mitsubishi overseas. I think it would have been a Mitsubishi Mirage. Another Honda in there, I think. But most of them have been absolute just garbage
But
cars.
you know what? One thing I like about that story, I mean, my first car was like, it's probably $500 car. It's an Austin Metro piece of garbage, as you would say.
Max.
Okay, and this is why I think the whole ownership story is so special for both of us and others on this channel. Is that if I started out in a Cayman or whatever was equivalent to a Cayman back then, I wouldn't appreciate what I have now. And I think it's one of those things with ages. You have to kind of take the long way round and realize how rubbish things are. So when you do get the good stuff, you kind of go, wow. Because I'm sure that there would be a really well-off like 18-year-old who drives a Cayman 987 and goes, this car is garbage. Look at the dash, and it doesn't handle well, and it just drives not enough power. So it's all relative to your life experiences.
Well, in order to, if you don't mind me coining a phrase, in order to enjoy life in cars to the max, there's got to be some garbage in your life first.
You need to know the min. You need to enjoy them. You need to take displeasure at the min of life. So then, when you get the max, you love it.
Exactly, man. And all of these cars that I mentioned, as you mentioned, were all $500 to $800 cars, basically disposable, that somebody had just beat the tar out of before, prior to my ownership, and they were well tired by the time I got to them. And it doesn't necessarily mean they weren't good cars. It's just that they were long beyond their shelf life by the time I got to them. And unfortunately, it was the only things that I could afford at the time, being in college and, starting a family and, different financial struggles you're having in your life, but, as life should be, things got a lot better, as my car history, progressed. And, you start reading magazines, start following enthusiasts, a little bit closer. And, you get to a point, where, your buying power gets a little bit better. And, start saying to yourself, you know what, maybe I can stretch my budget a little bit and get some of these cars that I aspire to. And lo and behold, next thing you know, you're there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to touch upon it. I want to touch upon it in a positive way, not a morbid way. But obviously, as you go older, you get older in life. I've kind of lost my father. You kind of realise your own mortality, and at some stage,
I lost my mother as well, as we talked about.
As we mentioned off camera. I'm sorry to hear about that. And we realise we're not going to be around forever either. So I think what it also means is that maybe something that I wouldn't have spent so much money on in my 30s when I had a younger family, as I get older, you kind of go, well, you know what? This is my one shot. Maybe I deserve a little bit of this, and then maybe I'd spend a little bit more because, we get one crack at the whip and we need to make the most of it.
Agree, man. You only get one shot at life, and you might as well enjoy this little bit of time that you get on this rock, and if you're going to just be working all the time and not enjoying, as I told you earlier in our live stream, Sometimes, man, I just jump in this car and don't have anywhere in particular to go. And I think that's best. These cars, if you bought the right car, they're so cathartic.
Yeah.
Just jumping in them. If you got something on your mind, you're getting killed at work, just jumping in these cars in a highway to nowhere, man, is where you need to go. Where you need to be. These cars are just perfect for that escape.
There we go. Well, brilliant. We've done 90 minutes. This is the longest we've ever done now. So, I want to thank you for your time on this channel. Well, we can come back and pick up some of these topics, later on if we do another one. But if there's anything else you'd like to say before we close off, Nate, the floor is yours.
No, I want to thank you, Max, for giving me an opportunity to join you. You're a gentleman. I love your channel. I love the content. I want to thank your viewers. For listen to a blowhard for almost 2 hours. Almost 2 hours at this point. I love talking about cars. Cars are my passion. Unfortunately, it's probably the worst purchase you'll ever make in your life. Unfortunately, and I love it. But we all have our vices, and this is definitely mine. I grew up around cars. As I said before, with my dad being a mechanic, and I can't think of anything else I'd rather love, besides, family and the obvious stuff. We all have our hobbies and vices, and this is it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to close off. There was a question that I didn't kind of put up on purpose, but this guy is just sort of saying, can you please answer my question? Like, the guy says, Nate is ice cold. Does his Cayman have hydraulics?
No.
It's like, come on, man.
I don't mind anybody that's into, if that's your scene, pushing a button and raising your car up and whatnot. Look, I just love cars. I love all cars. I don't frown upon anybody for customizing their cars, or if that's the kind of stuff they're into. It's just I'd rather, especially with the Germans and your British cars and your Italian cars, I'd just rather keep them stock. I think the engineers knew best.
There we go. Brilliant. Well, thanks so much for your time, Nate. We could talk forever. Please thank your family. I know you said you've got a 20-month-old. Was it a son or a daughter?
A son. I have 3 sons, 26, 25, and 1.
There you go. Well, thank your family for allowing you to spend time with us. I know what it's like when they're young kids sort of running around. Thank you very much for joining us. Thanks to all of the comments out there. Thanks to all of you that have donated here. I didn't even know that was possible. That was amazing. Enjoying life in cars to the max. Stay safe in lockdown. And we feature Stephen and his 987 in California next Sunday. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to click the button, sign off. And
I'll be watching. Thank you, viewers.
There you go.
Thank you, Mac.
Take it easy. Okay, thanks, guys. See you later.